call. So on this call, what we're really going to be looking to do is Jeremy's going to be presenting and going through really just some slides in terms of Klaviyo and just going through some email automations and just giving a lot more information about email marketing. And so we do ask if you do have any questions, please make sure to go ahead and drop them in the chat because we definitely want to get to those. But as he's going through and presenting, he is going to be going through, or while he's going through all of his stuff, we can make sure to answer those questions at the end as well. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Jeremy. And yeah, go ahead and pass it over to you, Jeremy.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Cool.
Let me share my screen here. All right. All right. Can everybody see that?
Perfect.
All right, cool. Like Cameron said, I'm just going to kind of walk through why I suggest that you think about leaning into Klaviyo, how it's going to benefit you as far as recapturing some of your revenue and just becoming your own book bub. And so, I recognize a lot of you on this call. So some of you who have either worked with me or gone through my course, this might be a little bit familiar to you, but for everybody else, hopefully, you'll get something out of it and, save your questions to the end. I'm sure you'll have many, but yeah, we can take the time to get that all answered. So just to recap of, quickly of what we're going to go through, I want to, just talk about why Klaviyo is superior than all the other email platforms out there, what makes it different, talk about email as a multiplier and how you can become your own book bub. Because, the one thing that we do as authors is when we're selling directly, nobody's going to promote us for us. So we have to really lean into that and become our own book bub. And I'll show you kind of some tips and tricks on how you can do that. We'll talk about segmentation. And especially, advanced segmentation that Klaviyo gives us the opportunity to really dive deep into the data that we have on our customers and how we can get the most out of it. And that's really going to help us, recapture some of the lost revenue from some of the buyers that have come onto your list, but also to sell them more. And then also just understand the whole customer journey and why we need to put these flows in place. And then, the secrets to achieving, 20 to 40% monthly recurring revenue with your Klaviyo to really get this machine working. But before, we get into that, in case you don't know who I am Jeremy Waldron. I have been self-publishing since 2011. I write mystery thrillers, and I consistently make 20 to 40% of my monthly recurring revenue from Klaviyo. But I also have this addiction to marketing, and I do consult for 7- and 8-figure direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands with their email marketing, and have been doing that for several years now, and really love just the marketing side of it. In fact, maybe more so than I love writing books. But we can't talk about email marketing without first talking about acquisition. And that's where Cameron and Ella come into play. And, I've been into a lot of author accounts, and there's no question when I get into an account, I can almost guarantee that I know if Cameron or Ella has been inside of it because they are just performing so much better than all these other accounts that I've been working with. So if you haven't, leaned into, Cameron or Ella's coaching, I really suggest maybe looking into that, exploring more of it, because like I said, I could just really see a difference in the accounts that they have their hands in. But then the other side of the marketing equation is the retention side, and that's where the email marketing is going to come into. So you can't talk about email marketing without the acquisition side, because we need those customers, and then we also need to have them repeat buy. Naturally, as authors, we have this lifetime value built in because just the natural way. If these readers like the work that you are producing, they're just naturally going to want to read more of it. So that's really helps us out as far as being able to scale our stores. But why is Klaviyo, and why do you need it over, say, like a MailerLite? Like I look at Klaviyo is not an email software tool. I actually look at it as a data software that happens to send emails. And that's really the difference between these other MailerLites or MailChimps, is that we have so much data pulled from Shopify that we can use to trigger our flows, to send messages, to just really know what people have and have not done. But it's also like to get this machine working. You see this wheel that I have here, and you got Cameron and Ella working with your Shopify store to really maximize your average order value, getting everything optimized on your storefront so that when you are finally do running ads, you can capture that as much order value at checkout as possible. But then you kind of come in here and then we're going to remarket to those customers to sell more of your books to these people. And that's really how you're going to give these people a unique experience because you're using the data that Klaviyo has to send the right message at the right time to the right people. And because we know that, we're going to see our conversion rates grow from there. And just to break down again, what is acquisition? What's this retention side? To put it really simple, we're generating a lead, we're capturing this lead, and then we're going to sell them something, and then we're going to sell them something else. So that's really what we're trying to do here. So, the first three is probably what Cameron and Ella are doing, and then the email part of it is number 4 right here. And with this direct selling, really is a 4-legged stool. We have our offer, we have our ads, we have our storefront, we have our emails. And I really do believe that if you don't have one of these optimized and performing at its highest level, you're literally decreasing your chances of success at 25%. So you already went from being an A student to a C student just by not having one of these 4 stools, 4 legs in part of your overall program. And that's where email's the multiplier here because, we're multiplying off of the acquisition. So if you're just bringing people in and everything, all your sales are on the front end and you're forgetting about the people who you brought into your email list, it's like having a party, except the moment that people show up, you just forget about them. You're more concerned about inviting and making sure that your house is full of people than you are about taking care of the people that are in your party. And that's why email, once you get this system going, it really is the quickest and easiest win that an author can have. I've seen lists just explode once you have this part of the equation in your program. And it really can be like printing money for some cases. Like for instance, one author I worked with, they were started to scale and they didn't have any of their emails or flows in. We built out their flows and got a campaign strategy in place, and they quickly climbed to 30% attributed revenue. Another author who was just killing it, on the front end, but they didn't have any of their flows or campaigns in place. We built out their flows, we smoothed out that customer journey, and you can see the exponential growth that they had just in a few short months. But this can happen at all levels too. So even on the higher end, again, like this author had flows in place, had a campaign stress. We just tweaked a few things and they went, I think it was like at 16% attributed revenue and we climbed it to 30. So again, like it doesn't matter where you're at in your business. Our goal is if you have a backlist to sell more of the same to your readers, our goal is to get you to a 20 to 40% attributed revenue pretty quickly. And so this is our goal here is, if you've been selling for a while and you've been on retailers, of course, BookBub is like one of the things that we always strive to get. And so we have to become our own BookBub because BookBub so far, maybe they will in the future, but they're not there yet to allow us to, promote our own stores here. But we have to be our own BookBub because, there's no algorithm behind this. But that does come with a warning here is that your email is only as good as your front end offer. And what I mean by that is, if you're only attracting freebie seekers, it's going to be harder for you to convert them. If you're attracting people that are buying on a, what I call a pocket change offer, well, they're going to be a little harder too. But if you just have a bad offer or something isn't right, maybe you're selling in a completely different genre, you have the romance on the front end, and then you're trying to sell them a mystery thriller on the back end, it's not going to work. So, email is only as good as your acquisition and your offer. So how do we become our own BookBub? Well, the first step is the advanced email segmentation. And this is where Klaviyo just blows everybody out of the water because we can get so granular with the data that we can just, again, know exactly who these people are, how engaged they are, what they have and haven't bought, and to put the right message in front of the right people to see our conversion rates go up. So yes, we must divide to conquer. And the reason being is because not all subscribers are made the same. And since we have that data, we're going to use that data. So this is kind of like the overall, this is the old way of email marketing, is where we have a list of newsletter and we're just going to send everybody the same message every week to our campaigns. We're just going to blast our list regardless of what people have and have not bought, regardless of engagement, regardless of all the other information that Klaviyo can give us. This worked for a while. You know, this was good about 10 years ago. But now with Klaviyo, the new way to email market is to, again, take this overall list. Now we're thinking about the list as where we're storing our profiles and subscribers. And within that list, we want to know who our whale readers are. These are the people who are going to buy everything that you ever put out. We're going to want to know what series they read, what they haven't read. We're going to want to know whether they only buy on discounts or they buy on full price. We want to know, you know, the deadbeats, the people who are absolutely not engaged at all. They're not opening your emails. They're not clicking. They're not buying. They're not doing anything. And we don't want them to drag down the people who are engaged. So we want to seclude them from these messages. And eventually, we're probably just going to kick them to the curb because we don't want to pay for them on our list too. We want to know the people who haven't bought from us are, so that we can put as many different offers in front of them to learn who these people are. And then also we can do it based off of interest or engagement and a bunch of other different things depending on your brand. There's so many different ways that we can slice and dice this email list to come up with a campaign strategy or to have these segments trigger your flows to put them down the path that's going to make the messages most relevant to them. And when we do this, you know, I've seen it across brands, authors, and across all sorts of different brands, but you're going to have 3 times more engagement, which means more clicks, more replies, and more of your emails landing in the primary inbox of your readers. And it always leads to more sales when you have more engagement. And the second way that we can become our own BookBub is through flows. And this is the secret to making the 20 to 40% monthly recurring revenue every month. But, you know, I ask you, what are flows? And I can already hear everybody's going to be like, well, duh, Jeremy, it's email automations. But really, what I like to say is these are the employees that you didn't know you hired, because we're going to break them down into 2 sections. And the way that these flows are triggered is based off of people, your customers' behavior, what they have and have not done. And I like to break these smart automations off into 2 camps. You have one for customer service and then another side for selling your backlist. And based off of the behavior that your readers are going to take, they're going to be put down that certain flow to handle those objections, to handle that customer service, or be led to be exposed to your backlist. And there's 2 types of flows. There's the before the sale, and then there's after the sale. And this is what I call the reader journey. And this is just, again, putting the right message in front of the right people at the exact time that they are going to be most ready to pull the trigger and convert and buy from your store. Now, I've always tried to figure out how I can best lay this out and explain how people move in and out of flows. So far, this is all I got. It's not pretty, but let me walk through it. Really, there's 2 ways that people get on your email list. There's either come through the store purchase on the left here. They make a purchase, they join your list, they enter the engaged segment of people, and then they get put into your post-purchase first-time buyer flow. Or maybe they visit your website, or you're running a landing page to get email addresses in exchange for a reader magnet. They come onto your list, they get entered into the engaged segment if they interacted with your emails. If they didn't, they get put in the deadbeat segment, but they enter your welcome flow. This is where you're introducing them to your brand, who you are, what kind of stories you write. And depending on what they do here, they may be put into a browse abandonment flow or a cart abandonment flow. Or if they make a purchase, they'll be ending up right where the store purchases by. And this is the post-purchase flow. Well, then we put them into a segment based off of what they did buy, and then they can enter the cross-sell flow. So if they entered on Series A, now we're going to introduce them to Series B. Depending on what they do here, if they pull the trigger and they buy from you again, well, then they go into a post-purchase two-time buyer flow. Again, the first-time buyers are going to receive a different message because we know that they're coming to your store and buying from you for the first time. They're going to need a little bit more hand-holding than the second-time buyers. So these messages are very different. And then, depending on their action, if they don't do anything, maybe they buy, but they don't buy for a while, they'll get put in the win-back flow, or maybe they go through, a second cross-sell flow, and eventually they reach that threshold to become a VIP. They're moving in and out of these flows. The flows are dynamic based off of the behavior that people take. And then also, as they're interacting with your emails, well, then we can come up here and we can just divide them into all these different segments. These are just a handful. You got the semi-engaged segments, you got buyer segments, non-buyer segments, bargain hunter segments, ghost reader segments, all these different segments. And then we can use this data to build our campaign strategy from. So we're sending not to our entire list, but we might just be sending to our bargain hunters because we're running a sale. Or maybe, we're choosing a certain series that people have bought, and we want to highlight a series that we think that they should buy next. So this is how you just divide your list and build a flow strategy around it, and then you use this segment strategy to build your campaigns. Now, where do we begin? Before the sale flows are your welcome flow. They're being introduced to your brand. Maybe it's the checkout started abandonment flow, browse abandonment flow, maybe an interest-based flow. Maybe they're browsing around on your website and they show activity that they're interested in something based off of the criteria that we set our segments, and that flow gets triggered. Or maybe even the sunset flow. They come onto our brand, they lose engagement, we try to win them back. And then after the sale flows, it's the post-purchase flow, walking through, setting that expectation. How are their books going to be delivered? Who to contact if they have any trouble, and how to get it onto their e-reader, or how long it takes you to fulfill your paperbacks. Cross-sell, upsell flows. These ones are the ones that I always see perform, take people to that next level. It's just that natural jump in revenue, because again, we're not throwing our entire library at people, but we're hand holding them based off of what they bought and what we think they should read based off of what they bought. And then, if you're doing a review app, such as Klaviyo or Kendo or Judge Me, you can have a review request that will be populated here. Your win back, your VIP, because truly now, because we have the data, we can really decide how are we going to have our VIP readers. Is it going to be based off of how many orders that they bought? Or is it going to be a revenue threshold that they have to pass? We can decide this now. It's not just everybody's a VIP that's on our newsletter, because we want to know who the real movers and shakers are. And we want to let them know that because they are VIP, we're going to treat them such. So we're going to roll the red carpet out for them. And then, the first purchase anniversary flow. And this one's a fun one just because it recognizes, hey, 6 months ago, you made a purchase from a store. This is what it means to you as an author, that you stuck around, and bought from you directly. So again, we're just putting the right message in front of the right people. We're making people feel good about themselves in our messaging. And about 70% of the attributed revenue I've seen in authors' accounts will come from flows. It could be give or take. You might have the one anomaly where that's not the case. But that's usually what I'm seeing, is about 70% is coming from flows. The other 30% is coming from your campaigns, because there's only really two ways to feed the flows, and that's coming in from off your ads, from the acquisition side, or the email campaigns. Um, and so really to become your own book club, to win at this Klaviyo game and to use that data, it really comes down to consistent, frequent email campaigns paired with those smart automations and the flows. And that's how you're going to consistently, month over month, no matter how small or how large your revenue is, have that 20 to 40% attributed revenue come to your account. But here's another example just to leave you with. Again, this was like one of those authors who had flows and campaigns in place. We made a few minor adjustments, and you can see within the first 30 days that we were working together, they increased their attribute revenue by 68%. So, if you just have your flows up, it's a great start. There's probably some dials that we can turn to squeeze a little more juice out of your flows and get those performing just a little bit better. But yeah, that is Klaviyo in a nutshell. Klaviyo is a very, very deep topic here, but hopefully that kind of just gives you a new perspective of what's possible and what you can do with it.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. Well, cool. Does anyone have any specific questions? You could definitely drop those down in the chat. Be happy to answer those there. Yeah, I think that's a really cool point you touched on too, that each automation flow is like having another employee in your business that's automatically sending these things out for you, because it really is taking control. It's like a pixel having someone working for you 24/7, just dividing people up into where they're at. It's really cool.
Absolutely. Casey, do you need a certain number of books before this will help? Currently have my bestsellers in a box set. Yes, what I would focus on for you would be more just the onboarding thing. Make sure that you just have a smooth onboarding experience. Like if all your sales are on the front end just because that's the size of your backlist, it's literally impossible to get to 20 to 40% attributed revenue. But you can set the mark here, and you can bring people on to make sure it's setting those expectations of how your books are going to be delivered. You can do some tricks on the back end to make sure that you're ensuring your own deliverability so that your future messages are going to be landing in people's inbox rather than spam, and just keeping people engaged, because that's going to be your job while you build out your backlist, is just keeping your subscribers engaged through storytelling, tell them what you're working on behind the scenes, to keep that list active so that when you do have a new release, they'll be ready to hear it. Yeah, I think Kim, I think that kind of answers your question as well. Yeah, for Patricia, what sort of specific topics, approaches do you recommend for these frequent campaigns? I'm really big into storytelling. If you're writing your own emails, I would do like at least one email a month where you're telling people a little bit behind the scenes of what you're working on. Try to hype up what is coming down the pipeline. But because of the segments that you can create, I would also find a way where you're just highlighting what people haven't bought. So that could be 3 out of the 4 campaigns a month where you're just highlighting your backlist. If you don't have a backlist, then that's where you really want to lean into what's coming down the pipeline, and talk more about what you're working on behind the scenes.
And then as well, Jeremy, I just had a question. What would you say the 3 most important automations that an author could have set up? Like what are the 3 main ones that are going to help drive the most amount of revenue as quickly as possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm a firm believer that the onboarding is super important for both your customers as well as you in setting up deliverability. So it'd be the welcome flow, the first time post purchase, and browse abandonment, checkout started abandonment. Those are easy setups. But then that cross sell flow. So if you do have a backlist where people are coming in off of Series A, I would have a cross sell flow that would introduce them to Series B. Jeff, I just imported a bunch of my contact lists in Klaviyo to try to centralize my communications and have everyone in a single place rather than a bunch of Google Forms. I have three types of customers: direct readers, retailers, wholesale, and libraries. What is the best place to learn about Klaviyo deliverability list? Um, well, that would be me, Jeff. Um, yeah, and that's a really good question. I imported my list from, I was on Get Response for my retailers, and I brought them over, and I would just make sure that you know who your buyers are, who are coming off of Shopify, and who your retailers are. Um, Now, once you have everybody, migrated over, it might get a little murkier from there, but I would just keep that into two separate lists: retail buyers that you migrated versus your Shopify store list. Pat, do you recommend a deal in each campaign, or does that train them? Well, the way that Cameron is teaching it, we're already giving deals on our bundles, so I wouldn't. I would reserve that for when you want to be really aggressive. A few times a year come to mind. If you write romance, it would be Valentine's Day would be a good one. And then especially because we're on Shopify, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is another one. But I would lean more into the experience that you're selling than actually the price point. Novi, should campaigns be sent to just the opt-in newsletter or segments of buyers or both? Send your campaigns to your engaged segment. So these are the people who are showing some kind of engagement, whether they are on your site, they've opened past emails, clicked past emails, made a recent purchase. Send to your engaged segments, and then then you can get more granular if you have a specific message that you want to hit to a certain segment.
And then as well, you were talking about storytelling is really a good way to, for the weekly emails, that's a good one. And for, would you say for automations as well, storytelling works, or is that more of where you're really just looking for the cross sell and just presenting another offer?
Yeah, I think it's easy for us to like overthink the storytelling approach because we're so used to writing long manuscripts.
Mhm.
When I say storytelling in email, it doesn't have to be this long thing. It could literally just be like, hey, I just wrote the most killer scene ever, and thank you for, distracting me with this purchase or whatever. And it could be two lines, and that would be the story. And then you get on with the objective of the email. Um, but, I kind of approach emails like, selling the experience of what they're about to do. So you do that either through future pacing or past reader reviews, create some FOMO, or you can tease the tropes. And so just little things, but not make it 5,000 word document.
Yeah. And since you're able to see so many different accounts, would you say that the storytelling aspect does it cross over throughout the genres, or is it really just like speaking honestly just as who you are as the author? Like it can obviously be different based on the genre, different based on the can be different based on the author as well. But would you say it really just translates across genres where they're really just looking for some sort of story and investment into the author?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you could, I don't know, just be different in your inbox. You think about how many emails, I know my email inbox is full, but maybe I'm just I just sign up for everybody because I'm an email marketer. But like if you can just be different, add a little
Mhm.
different experience, make it fun for the reader to want to open your emails, then yeah, you're going to stand out.
Mhm.
Especially in the e-commerce space. We have a lot of very pretty pictures out there that are trying to sell products. Well, we sell to readers, so I'm a firm believer that we should write to readers and to write the copy. And that's how we can really get our personality across. That's how we can like really drill in and make people feel good about opening the email, about reading your books. Um, so yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, and for those weekly emails too, I know you were talking about like obviously we're not just trying to like sell, sell, sell. And some of those weekly emails are looking for more of like brand building. How would you say to structure those out, or that you've seen structuring those out the best that's worked?
Um, Yeah, it's going to be it's all seasonality.
Mhm.
I've always seen the summer months drop off, especially July, August. People are busy in the summer months. But then it picks up again. And so like you just kind of like just feel, you try to just think about where people are at or what they're doing or what the weather's like, and work that into your copy. Or, if you were writing, romance, positive affirmations are always fun to do. And just giving a people, a reason to read your emails, but also, give them a direction of like, like remind them that, you have this backlist here. It's so easy for us to think that, oh, just because a book isn't selling, people must not like it. Well, it's probably just because they just don't know about it. So if we just give them, gentle reminders every now and then that this exists, people will pick it up when they're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's all about the touch point and then the value of the touch point too. And email really plays into that, especially during the week too. We see whenever an email is sent out, that the cost per result will significantly drop in the ads as well, just because it's picking up a lot of those people that are purchasing from the email too.
Mm, hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. Did anyone else have any other questions? I think I answered everything in there. Cool. Awesome. Well, Jeremy, yeah, where could everyone find you? I saw you put your website on there, but if you had any socials too.
Well, I'm in the group. You can just friend me on
Yeah,
Facebook. That's probably the easiest way.
cool.
Or you can email me. Um, yeah, that's the easiest way. I also have the website at email done right, WRITE, .com. That you can find me. But yeah, I geek out on this email stuff. I love it. I don't know why, but I do. And yeah, so if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Awesome. Looks like Patricia just asked one more question.
What about putting a complete backlist at the bottom of each? I tend not to like to just throw the complete library at people. I find it's kind of like walking down the cereal aisle, with my two young children, and I get overwhelmed. We leave. They want to buy everything. Um, but yeah, I like to handhold people down the journey that I want to take them, and I use that through the segmentation in Klaviyo, and I've seen that work best. Again, like it's always worth testing. So like to say that you can't just throw a A/B split test up there on a campaign and do one or the other. See what happens.
Cool. Basics covered. Yeah, what is the next? There you go. Yeah. Looks like Patricia
What is
just
the
asked one.
next thing they miss? Um, so what do you mean the next thing that they miss?
I
Like,
think she
so
means she has the basics of the automations covered. I think it's like the next more advanced setup.
yeah,
I
the
believe.
next thing would be um a regular campaign send,
Hmm.
and to send those campaigns to the engaged segment instead of just your entire list. Um, and then use like I do like 30-day, 90-day, 120-day engaged. And the reason being is because the 30 days is the most active. Everybody between the 30 and 90 days semi-active. And then everybody after that is about to drop off. So I want to send a re-engagement campaign and try to pull them back in to the 30 days. So it's just this constant pull and tug. And I think it's the campaign strategy there that would be the next thing to get in the habit of. And it's a tough one because it's weekly or even more so. It could be a couple times a week, depending on your list size and your backlist. But that's a tough one I've seen authors to get into just because they have so much else going on.
How do you recommend planning that out typically if they're going to be doing a weekly email? Do you recommend like writing it at the time or trying to bulk create them, creating all four for the month? Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Batch it.
batch it.
So get a spreadsheet, come up with a calendar, and then just get in that flow, knock out the four in, an hour or whatever. have it done for the month and just get it all scheduled out and sending. And that will really help you save some time.
Yeah, Julie asked a really good question too.
It's been talked about a lot in other groups, but do
Mhm.
you recommend moving your main? Yeah, this one's popular. Um, I don't have a preference either way. I think this just comes down to what's easiest for you. If you Klaviyo is more expensive, and that's the thing that seems to hang people up. But if you know where these subscribers are coming from, it's going to probably save you time in the long run. And then also, you should be able to make your money back to cover your Klaviyo costs pretty easy. But as long as if you do migrate, the one suggestion I would have is just make sure you put it in its own separate list so you know exactly where these people are coming from, and you can treat them the same. You don't know any data until they make some kind of purchase or action on your store. So treat them like retail buyers until they show you otherwise. Um, let's see. Can you have a question? Can I just clarify, you use Klaviyo Flow instead of whatever email Shopify? Um, yeah, Katie, the only emails that I send through Shopify is the transaction emails. So everything else I want Klaviyo to take care of, the checkout abandonment. What other ones do they send? They can send a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they can. Typically once Klaviyo is set up though, we should be turning all those off.
Yeah.
Because yeah, Klaviyo can do all that
And
and
the
a lot
re
more.
Yeah, and the reason I suggest turning it off and sticking with Klaviyo is it's going to build up your sender reputation on your sending domain. And that's that little email address that you're sending your emails with. So when you have like, say, the cart abandonment set up in Klaviyo, that tends to be a very high performing email. So, a lot of opens, a lot of clicks, and that's all good sender reputation juice that you want to build up on your own domain and not have it sent through Shopify. And what that's going to do is that's going to help you get
Listening.
preferred inbox placement
Yeah,
down the road.
Mhm. Would you say as well when authors are pulling their main newsletter list, because I've like some have say 20,000 people on there, but a lot of it has been pulled in from like free books or things like that in the past. Would you say when you're migrating that over, obviously because it will cost more, how do you treat that when it's in its own separate segment? Do you just put them through that 30, 60, 90, and then after the 90, anyone that hasn't engaged at that point will kind of just get moved off the list? Or do you have a different way of going about that?
Yeah, depending on where they're coming from, ideally I would like to segment as much as they'll allow on those platforms before migrating, take
Mhm.
the best over, and then also, it's like a two platform approach. Is we're going to let people know that we'll take our best, we'll move them over, and then we'll start the warming up process on the new provider. But then, we're also if they're still stuck on the old one, we're going to let them know, hey, we're migrating. If you want to come along with us, click this link, and then it could just be a landing page to your bookstore or whatever, and you
Mhm.
just let them know. But they need to show you some kind of action that they want to stay.
Yeah.
Open rates, they're not super reliable, so that's why we ask for the click, just some kind of engagement, and then we'll go from there. But we try to get that engagement going before that to let people raise their hand and say, yes, take me with you, and let them know too, like, like if you don't want to come, like if you don't do this, then you might get left behind, you might not hear from me.
Mhm. Yeah.
With the ability for readers to not allow tracking, how does that affect it? The ability of readers to not allow tracking. Yeah, I mean, the whole data thing is getting murkier. Klaviyo is one of the best with it just because you can pull so many different things. Like I said, open rates are a little unreliable, but because it's synced with Shopify, we know if they've been active on the site. We know what products they've been viewing. So we can use the Shopify data to know the data. But you know, I don't think there, I'm trying to think if there's any really data collecting. I can't think of really any because we pulling the information from Shopify, Shopify knows what they have and have not bought, and
Yeah.
we can use that data.
It should all
Um,
be 100% through the API with Shopify's API and Klaviyo's. That's why it's like having another Facebook pixel, but if anything, it's more accurate because they directly know the email and name and all, IP address, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like Klaviyo was built for Shopify. Like
Yeah.
they came in and like they didn't go in saying I'm going to build an email platform. They say I'm going to build an email platform for Shopify store owners. So that's kind of why Klaviyo is one of the best out there doing this. You listed several review sources. Yeah, if you were to go that way, I try to lean into just keeping it into the same ecosystem. So I would go with Klaviyo myself if you were to do that. Okindo is a good one too. I don't know if you've used any others, Cameron.
Yeah, we used Ali reviews in the past, and then Luke's reviews. The
Right,
reviews thing got a little odd once Amazon started picking up on that and they made it a little bit tougher to pull the reviews across. You still can, you just can't pull over as many at once. Um,
right.
but yeah, I mean, if you have any that integrate better with Klaviyo,
So
especially
it
for
would
people that are just
be like
starting.
the difference between these and the Ollie reviews is Ollie's scraping Amazon and pulling
Hmm.
it over. These would be like you're asking for your readers to leave a review. I really don't think that this is necessary unless you're like high level and you want to add these UGCs, these user generated content onto your store. If you I think just putting a review in the product page is enough because people know if they really cared, they would go look at an Amazon or these other retailers about your book. Um, but if you did want to use these review apps, what is nice about them is that you can then set up a flow and have a conditional split based off of the star rating that they leave you. So you can address customer service issues really quickly if they leave you a poor rating. And then you get to decide what reviews actually get published on your website.
Any other questions?
What
Well,
haven't I covered?
yeah, I mean, you answered all the questions that I had personally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anything else anyone has? These are great answers, though. Appreciate it. Well, doesn't look like anyone else.
Klaviyo is a tough one because, like it's not just like setting stuff up, you're going to tailor it towards a lot of what people's brand is about, what products they have, and then just building it off of there. But I guess my final piece of advice would be just to start simple and then complicate as your business grows.
What would you say from the authors that are either just starting or have like the basic setup? What would you say are like the main three things that they should focus on in terms of, I know we talked about the automations, but like say one email a week, setting up these automations, and then something else, like the three main things to get started, make more money.
If you're just getting started, I would call Cameron and I would say get my offer going, because you really can't do anything unless you have, you're making sales on the front end. Um, but then, like if you have everything else zeroed in, then it would be I would work on building your list up through sales, and then just leaning into building out your flows to bring people in and expose them to your backlist.
It looks like Jan had one more question.
Of course she did.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So is it hard to shift from your original flow to a new flow? Do people get lost in the flows? Um, this comes down to how you would have your filters for the flow in place. So as long as you have it set to where people, if they take a certain action in that flow, that Klaviyo will dynamically move them from one flow to the next. Where this could get tricky is, sometimes if you have a lot of flows, they could get put into two different flows. There's a way that you can minimize that through the filters of deciding if they're already in one flow to only show them this, or you can just toggle on the smart send on one and leave it off on the other. So there's little things here. But the big thing is if you're unsure and you think you have everything set up correctly, just go for it. Eventually, a reader will let you know, or you can look at the data in Klaviyo of just what people are doing, interacting with your emails as well as your website, and you can spot check that way to see if something's broken. But if you just have your core flows in place, you should be good. And I know you're good, Jane.
Yeah, holiday sales.
Do you have holiday sale suggestions or recommendations for taking
Well, looks like
advantage of
Novi
autumn
asked.
holiday reading or releases?
Cool.
Yeah, so one, yeah, if Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I would definitely lean into that just because everybody's ready to shop that time. If you have several Christmas books coming, yeah, once school's back in section, I think it's free reign to join Lowe's and start promoting Christmas as soon as September rolls around. And you can just tease it. You don't have to get, crazy with the Christmas theme yet, but you can just tease it. Everyone loves Christmas.
It's like Novi asked. I think I'm getting confused about people who sign up versus people who bought are people who just bought for flows but not campaigns.
Are people who bought just for flows? No, so let's see. Yeah, so if people sign up and they haven't bought, they'll be added as long as they engage with your emails, they'll be added to your engage segment. And it's the same with people who have bought. So your flows are going to be for both. So, depending on what they do, they can be for both. Not all of them, but some of them. Let's see. Pat, what do you see ahead changing with email marketing? It's always the elusive, how much data we're going to be able to use, and what we can do with that. That's really the big thing that I see.
Do you see the structure of the emails changing, or is it still going to be very story based, just
I
higher
think
quality emails?
yeah, if you come across as being just authentic, and you're not just beating them over the head with a sale, I think you're going to win. And that doesn't mean that you can't soft sell, because you should be selling in every email. But it doesn't have to be, like so hard sell. But
Totally.
yeah, as long as you mix up your messaging enough, I don't know, email's been around for the last 20 years. I don't really see it changing too much. And it's one of those mediums that has been amazingly consistent. And everyone is like, oh, email's gonna die. And I was like, no one has emails anymore. They're all on social media. And I'm like, if you have a job, you got an email address, you're going to be reading your emails.
Yeah.
Like I don't know anybody who doesn't have a job and an email address. Um, Shayla, if you find out that readers in your main newsletter, in my case MailChimp, are buying from Shopify, should you move them from that list to Klaviyo? If they buy from you, they'll be in your Klaviyo list already. And I wouldn't go searching for these people because you would quickly be overrun of just doing that daily. I would let them then decide what newsletter they want to stay on. So just continue sending to both as you normally do. And then eventually they're going to either keep both or they're just going to decide which one they want to be on.
What do you see in terms of the future for SMS as well? I don't believe a ton of authors have jumped onto that yet, but what do you kind of see for the vision for that in the future? Because that's going to be like kind of the next email almost.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought this up. Yeah. SMS. I think it's going to be big. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, it's more personable. Everybody, like I know like when my phone dings, like I just have that natural reflex to look at it. Um, I think there's got that balance too, like how are you going to present your messages in SMS to not make it feel so overwhelming? But if you add it to your strategy, like it's definitely going to be a reminder, if not a good revenue generator for you. But um, I also look at it this way, like because if people are start to drop off on your email and you have SMS, maybe you can win them back through SMS. And then if they stop at SMS, well, we also have this thing, and I won't get too deep into this, but direct marketing. Like we can set it up to where we send them pamphlets, in the mail. So people can actually get a hard copy of like, hey, like it's been a while. They dropped off on email, no longer respond to SMS, but we still have their data. We can send them, a card in the mail, let them know about a new release. Um, but I think, yeah, if you're to the point of scaling, SMS isn't that much more to add to it. And I would lean into that too and just collecting the data because you're going to use it, especially around a new release.
Yeah, especially in the future too, with different contact mediums, because it seemed like it went from email and then SMS came out, and that's slowly starting to become bigger and bigger. And they're probably going to be another contact medium in the future that people are going to have like an even closer touch point too. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And it is going to be more genre related, I think.
mhm,
Um, but we see that across email as well. So,
yeah, cool, awesome. Anyone else have any other final questions? I'll click right now. Well, cool. We can go to wrap this one up, and then we're going to go ahead and drop this call recording into the group as well. And so you can go and watch it back and then ask any questions down there too. And then Jeremy's going to be in there too. But yeah, thank you very much, Jeremy, for hopping on and giving all this info. This was great.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thanks for having me. I can also drop in that slideshow if people want it to in the group. So,
That would be great. Honestly, the more information, the better.
cool.
Yeah, it looks like it. Cool. That'd be great. Well, cool. We'll go ahead and drop this call in the folder and see everyone else on the next call. Take care, everyone.